It's difficult to understand why some fans insist that Bo-Katan is a well-written or morally good character. When examined closely, she is neither. Bo-Katan is a case study in stagnant characterization, unacknowledged moral wrongdoing, and narrative favoritism. This analysis breaks down why her writing consistently fails across multiple Star Wars series. Reason 1. A permanently stagnant narrative arc. Bo-Katan's character is defined by a single, endlessly recycled objective: reclaiming Mandalore. Across more than a decade of storytelling, this goal never meaningfully evolves, nor does her relationship to it. The Clone Wars. She seeks control of Mandalore, briefly attains it, loses it to Maul, regains it, and then loses it again to the Empire. Rebels. The same objective remains unresolved: the Mandalorian. The narrative resets once more, returning her to the same motivation. Despite years passing both in-universe and in real time, Bo-Katan's storyline never progresses. Each appearance simply restores her to the same narrative starting point, making her less a developing character and more a static plot device. Reason 2. Severe moral crimes without narrative accountability. One of the most significant issues with Bo-Katan's portrayal is the disconnect between her actions and how the story treats them. She commits acts that would typically define a villain, yet faces no lasting consequences or moral scrutiny. Examples include being directly involved in civilian massacres in the Clone Wars, Season 4, Episode 14. No remorse, no consequences. It's never even mentioned again. She plotted her own sister's death. Bo openly wanted Satine gone for years. When Satine finally dies, Bo weaponizes that death politically, framing herself as compassionate. And Obi-Wan just accepts this. She defies Mandalorian tradition. Pre-Vizsla loses the duel to Maul and declares him the rightful ruler. Bo refuses to accept the outcome because it doesn't benefit her, and nobody calls her out on this. Repeated deception, including manipulating Obi-Wan Kenobi by misrepresenting Mandalore's situation, contributing directly to Mandalore's repeated destabilization with no narrative attribution of responsibility. Each time Bo-Katan reappears, her past actions are effectively erased. The story offers neither condemnation nor reflection, creating a moral vacuum around her character. Reason 3. Unearned heroic framing. Despite this history, Bo-Katan is consistently treated as honorable and heroic by other characters, many of whom should know better. Figures such as Obi-Wan, Ahsoka, and Sabine accept her leadership and moral authority without question. She is not portrayed as a villain despite everything she has done, nor does she undergo meaningful redemption. She does not apologize, meaningfully self-reflects, or truly alter her behavior in response to past actions. Instead, the narrative reframes her as a misunderstood liberator, sidestepping the ethical implications of her conduct. Reason 4. A redemption arc without change. Bo-Katan's supposed turn in the Clone Wars Season 5 is presented as a redemption, but it lacks the fundamental requirement of any character arc: transformation. The problem is, she doesn't shift from her ways. She retains the same aggressive demeanor, continues manipulating, uses guilt and deception as tools, displays persistent arrogance and contempt. Her ethics, methods, and worldview remain unchanged. Only her faction changes. This is not character growth, it is at best a team swap. And the ambiguity I've seen among the Star Wars community surrounding when her growth allegedly occurs spans everything from Maul's rise to The Mandalorian Season 3, only reinforces the absence of a coherent arc. If the audience has a hard time identifying the moment of change, it likely never occurred. Growth is implied rather than actually being there. Reason 5. Persistent manipulative behavior. Bo-Katan's interactions consistently rely on manipulation. She manipulates enslaved people in Season 4 of TCW, Maul and Savage in Season 5 of TCW, her entire planet with a false flag attack in TCW, Obi-Wan in TCW, and Din in The Mandalorian. These behaviors remain constant across series and are never reframed as flaws the character must overcome. She lies about her intentions, sets traps, and waits for the perfect moment to save people so they'll owe her. This isn't heroic behavior, it's textbook manipulation. Reason 6. An unchecked superiority complex. Bo-Katan routinely belittles others, mocking Din's beliefs, insulting Boba Fett, and presenting herself as morally superior. This attitude persists despite her history of far more severe ethical violations. Her concept of honor is applied selectively, undermining its credibility. Reason 7. Fundamentally self-serving motivations. Her alliances are transactional. Bo-Katan only helps people when she expects something in return. She refuses to follow Maul after her leader declared him the winner of the duel. She only gives Din information after he helps her. She doesn't care about Grogu until the Darksaber becomes relevant. Bo doesn't want peace, she wants power. Bo almost exclusively aids others only when it advances her personal claim to power. Peace, stability, or reconciliation are secondary, if they matter at all. Her consistent priority is authority, not Mandalore's well-being. Reason 8. Leadership imposed by narrative convenience. The story repeatedly forces Bo-Katan into leadership roles regardless of logic or precedent. She's gifted the Darksaber in Rebels without earning it. She conveniently sees the mythosaur alone, validating her claim. The armorer lets her remove her helmet despite it breaking the creed. She regains the Darksaber through a loophole that destroys the entire tradition behind it. She inexplicably wields the Darksaber better than Din for no real reason other than to validate her claim. Her repeated failures never disqualify her from command. Rather than her actions justifying her authority, the plot adjusts itself to ensure she retains it. Bo-Katan is not a morally complex character. She is a self-serving extremist, consistently framed as heroic through narrative favoritism. Her crimes are ignored, her failures are excused, and her lack of growth is obscured by repetition and spectacle. The central problem is not merely her behavior, but the story's refusal to interrogate it. By disconnecting her past actions from present consequences, the narrative renders both her leadership and her supposed redemption hollow. This issue reflects a broader pattern in certain Star Wars writing. Particularly in Dave Filoni's female characters, like Ahsoka, are shielded from meaningful criticism. When a story refuses to acknowledge who a character actually is and what they have done, any attempt at depth or development becomes performative rather than earned.